All right. Well, let's dive in here. I've got two gentlemen across the board for me. Good morning, fellas. How are you?
Morning.
It's good to see you. And we got David Handy, who's the founder and CEO of FlightHound. And then Strings Kavosik. Strings, let's bring you into this conversation.
Good morning, Dirk.
I've known you for about a year and a half now, and we've become good friends, but I've also recognized you as a very astute businessman in the community. So your background real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Dirk. It's a pleasure to be in here, and I get to follow Mr. David Handy. That's a rough one to follow, but okay. Day. Yeah. I had my coffee this morning. I'm sort of a serial entrepreneur guy. I sit in this world of consulting and professional services around really technology systems. Mm-hmm. Takumo is the first really Uberized service delivery platform. We help work get done in really kind of layman's terms, and to explain it really briefly is like, if you want to buy something, oftentimes you go to the Amazon guys online.
Sure.
If you want to get something done, you come to us. We've run technology experts. We've run electricians, plumbers. We're doing hundreds of jobs across the United States. And then last April, I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Handy here, and who's the founder and the brainchild, really, of FlightHound. He told me what that was about, and just like people listening, it hooked me because it is it hits everybody, really, every demographic, every age.
Yeah, it's non-discriminate.
Right?
That's for sure.
It really is, right? And it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And I had just come out of a trip going down into Mexico where we had some issues, and like everybody else out there, really related to it. So I jumped in to see what I could do, and David and I are taking the bull by the horn and running it through. Super excited to be here. I think what we're going to talk about is, it'll excite some people.
I think so too, because if you've ever lost a bag and you're not home, it is very frustrating. One of our modern world challenges is air travel. And I want to really lean into you, David, on this in terms of defining what you all initially saw as kind of the challenge, the inherent challenge that travelers face. And what was the impetus for you starting to wrap a business solution around that?
1% of bags that get lost in a yearly basis is 2 million pieces of luggage.
That's a lot of luggage.
A lot of luggage.
A lot of personal belongings.
A lot of personal belongings, personal things, your daughter's favorite bear.
Yep.
Your business presentation, all the belongings you have in the world as you traverse from one place to the next.
So you saw a lot of things. You saw not only missing baggage, but other dynamics in the traveler's experience that were really frustrating and complicated.
Sure. Yeah. The other big thing that I saw was how folks were compensated for disruptions.
Okay.
So when you travel, you have three basic disruptions. You have delay, you have cancellations, and then you have lost, damaged, or delayed luggage. I'll walk backwards. So it's great to get to wherever you need to be, but if you have to wear the same underwear for 3 days, it doesn't make it real fun.
Yes.
And secondly, with the delay, the speed of business today and the cost of business today, a lot of times, a lot of us travel, in a very, very compartmentalized time frame. Mm-hmm. So I may get on a flight this morning and plan on getting to wherever I'm going this evening for a meeting that I have the next morning. Mm-hmm. Well, if I get delayed just a few hours, and it pushes me back, it changes the entire dynamic of my business trip.
That's right.
And the airlines don't do a good job of compensating people for those types of issues. If your disruption is a little bit more significant, then they may say, listen, we'll upgrade you in the cabin. And so you'll go from economy class to business class. Well, as we all know, and I love to say whenever I'm getting on the plane, it doesn't matter whether I'm sitting in first class or I'm sitting next to the toilet, we're going to get there at the same time.
Pretty close.
So
within a few feet of each other. Yep.
Yeah. So if that scenario happens that I spoke about earlier, that really doesn't help either. You know, when you lose a bag, a couple of pairs of shoes. I'm married. A couple of pairs of shoes and a dress, and you know, it adds up to a couple $1,000 real fast. Especially if you throw my little 2 or 3 pieces of clothing in the bag. Right.
That's right.
The maximum claim you can make before you get into specificities, if you're moving something that's a big piece of equipment to your business or a very expensive piece of jewelry, is $3,500. So
wow, it's a big difference.
It's a huge difference from $100.
From $100, yeah.
Absolutely. So most folks don't know that, and the other half of that is it's even harder trying to accomplish that. People always ask me about the business and the model, and the first thing I tell them to do is just go online and type in flight disruption claim and whatever airline you traveled on.
Okay.
And then see how simple of a process it is to submit that claim.
It's a labyrinth. Yeah.
Even if you're at the airport, as soon as you get off the plane, most of the time, they direct you to the customer service counter.
Sure.
And if they're there, they've usually got a couple of hundred folks in front of them with all different types of scenarios, and they haven't been properly trained to manage each and every one of those. So in many scenarios, they pass you on to customer service and hand you a phone number or give you a website. And once you're there, it becomes a little more challenging. So,
okay. Well, what about disruptions and cancellations and things like that? What does that look like? Because disruption of service from, you know, getting disconnected from your bags is one thing, right? And that is enormously frustrating, or being delayed. But what about overt cancellations and things like that?
Sure. One thing that people need to understand first off is that you have 2 major different types of disruptions. You have controllable disruptions and uncontrollable disruptions.
Very good.
Those are defined by the DOT. So uncontrollable disruption is weather. Another uncontrollable disruption is if the FAA, for whatever reason, says that we're not going to allow this flight to leave at this time. Then you have controllable disruptions.
Okay.
Those are delays because of the crew. Those are delays because of maintenance. Those are issues that are just because of the inept operation of the airline and its business at a period in time.
Right. Southwest, i.e. a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
Right.
The huge computer disruption that happened recently, CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
So a lot of people did not understand that is a controllable disruption because it is the responsibility of the airlines to operate their systems properly.
Copy that.
And if the systems aren't operating properly, then that is a controllable circumstance that everyone should have been compensated for.
They weren't. So FlightHound proposes to kind of give you insights into these various disruptions of service, whether it's a delay, controlled or uncontrolled, or a loss. Is that a fair assessment?
That is part of what we do. You know, we look to educate and inform passengers, but more importantly, what we look to do is provide compensation, compensation for these disruptions.
Well, folks, I mean, we're just probably hitting the tip of the iceberg here, but most of us have encountered some form of delay or cancellation or have been parted with our luggage and private possessions. So this is a great resource. You can actually download it on your phone right now. It's flighthoundapp, app. Strings, you were talking about some of the numbers associated with this industry and the losses that are accumulated over the course of a year. Unpack that a little bit for us.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting. This is something I really started diving into, and David and I got into earlier in 2024, and really numbers are really quite revealing, right? Earlier in the show here, we were talking, and David was mentioning the 1% and how that 1% seems to be a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Well, we started diving into these numbers, and we looked and said, okay, the Department of Transportation has set out, depending on certain types of disruptions, what an amount to the traveler is due, right? And so using those numbers, and we go back and look, and we say, wow, suddenly the top 7 airlines in the United States. So if we're looking at 2023 And during the year of 2023, if these top 7 airlines had to pay what the Department of Transportation has stipulated, it would have been over $5 billion.
Okay, that gets my attention.
Yeah, and again, back to what David was talking about earlier, that 1% suddenly seems a lot bigger than 1%.
$5 billion.
And there's another interesting thing we discovered too, and it's around lost bags.
Okay.
So you lose a lost bag in Des Moines, Iowa. That bag eventually makes its way to Atlanta Airport.
Okay.
And it sits in Atlanta Airport in a room there for up to about 6 weeks. At 6 weeks, it's declared to be lost to the world. It's never going back to the owners. Nobody's going to put any effort into it as if they did before.
Right.
But the bag is sitting there. The bag then, all these bags and all other shipped cargo, which not just your luggage bag, but all other shipped cargo, is put on pallets and is sold to a one-man owned privately company, private store.
Oh my goodness.
Who then opens the bag, sells the bags, and sells the contents like a, giant used clothing store, used everything store.
Sure.
I think, David, the numbers on this for these recycled bags and the selling of the goods in there is $2 to $4
billion a year.
That's excruciating.
Wow.
So in total, I mean, we're looking at somewhere between $9 and $10 billion in losses.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No, and that doesn't take into account the losses, both direct and indirect, to the airlines.
Mm-hmm.
These delays cost the airline as well. They cost them manpower, they cost them logistics, and
customer service points.
Yeah, right.
And which is the biggest cost, right? Mm-hmm. So absolutely. So, we talk about the passenger because we're passenger centric, but we're full aware that this solution could also be a great help to airlines providing better service.
Well, see, that's what I love about the way you guys have architected this solution is you're really not picking a side here. You're seeing both sides.
You're correct.
That is correct.
Right? You're seeing the traveler's side and you're seeing the airline side who, for all intents and purposes, have the best of intentions, right?
Absolutely.
They don't want to pay this money out.
Absolutely.
But it's costing them billions as well.
That's right. I worked for one of the airlines. I won't mention their name.
Fair enough.
For a while. And that's what gave me the unique perspective on how significant this disruption issue truly is, and how difficult it is to solve. And so this is our little rock in the pond, to help solve the problem.
Right on. Well, let's start unpacking the solution, FlightHound. So what was the impetus? I mean, besides the challenge and the problem?
The further you get away from the disruption, the tougher it is to reach back and try to resolve it.
Right.
And so what FlightHound hopes to do is provide that immediate real-time opportunity for you to be compensated properly for that disruption. And so while you're in the midst of it, as soon as they tell you your flight's delayed or as soon as you get off the plane and you can't find your bag, 2 minutes, put in all the information, hit the button, free to download, free to use.
Okay. Well, that seems a fair transaction if I'm a traveler.
We think so.
That's a no-brainer.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Because you're right. I could have a very valuable ring in there. I could be proposing to my, fiance in Hawaii this trip, and she doesn't know it's in there, but I do. And all of a sudden, it's in the North Pole.
That's right. That's right. Or in my situation I had, there's family heirlooms. So I traveled, and while my bag was checked in with the airline, somebody opened up the inside, opened up 2 bags inside, took out some jewelry, took out a few other things.
Really?
Speaking to the airlines, their statement was, I have $100 is what they'll give me.
Thank you.
But I need a receipt for everything. And how many people have receipts for any kind of family heirloom or anything like that? And didn't. And it was really, 7, 8, 9 hours on the phone, and it was give up.
Yeah.
Right. And so then when I come in and I meet David and we start, looking at this, it's pretty powerful what we can do with the traveler, right? And that's initially where we dug in. But then, as we mentioned earlier, this is a big issue for the airlines. We can give the airlines a lot of room for improvement, right? We can show them where and how bags are going missing with the data we collect. We can show them where disruptions are happening and how, and even just the service of processing the claim is something that we can help with the airlines on. Suddenly this picture is much larger than we initially thought.
No doubt about it. You know, I'm curious. I mean, when you talk about a disruption like this, it's a very powerful incentive for consumers to want to get on board with it very quickly. And again, like I said earlier about your business model, I love the fact that airlines can actually get on board with this and partner with the passenger, which is the position they want to be in.
Absolutely.
Right? To start working this problem. And like you said, that 1% grows in scale when you dial in closer to it, right? It's like 1% of the universe.
Yes.
So that's a lot.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I want to get back to this FlightHound. So if you're listening and you're at your desk or at your phone safely, not driving, download the app. It's flighthoundapp, app, and it's free to download and it's free to use. And we're going to unpack a few things here in this fourth quarter. Number one, we're going to differentiate this from the bag tags, right? Or air tags or anything else that you might associate with that from FlightHound. And the second thing we're going to do is kind of explain in somewhat detail here how to utilize this tool, because it's a 6-step process, if I'm reading you right, David.
That's correct.
And folks, you can get this done probably between walking from gate to gate if you find yourself sideways with your baggage or delayed or canceled or otherwise. You know, the statistics were astounding, Strings. I mean, 5 billion
mind-blowing
in one sense, and then another 2 billion to 4 billion in lost merchandise. And that's a small economy. I mean, I hope people aren't too upset with this fellow. So, but seems like they've gotten over it if they're not chasing their bag down. But nonetheless, when we do lose our bags, okay, or we have a disruption in service, the airlines want to make it right. And their only way they know to do right now is to just throw a few bucks at you or a few upgrades or a hotel room or whatever it might be. I'll repeat it. I love about your business model is you're not pitting airlines against passengers.
Not at all.
You're saying, guys, we see you're both in the same problem here and we're here to help.
That's right.
Love it. Okay. So the differentiation between AirTag and FlightHound.
Sure. Yeah. The biggest differentiation is that our smart bag tag gets your bag back to you. There's no worse piece of bad identity or exposure to identity theft than a bag tag.
Oh, there you go.
You put everything on it: your name, your address, your phone number. Some people stick their business card in it.
That's true.
So one of the things the tag does is it protects your identity. So your identity is on the tag, but it isn't exposed to everyone, and it's very easy to get to. The second thing that the bag tag does is once it's located, we geolocate the bag, and then it sends a message to FlightHound to say, this is where the bag is. And that allows us to start the process to get the bag back to the consumer.
Oof. Boy, what a relief to see an indicator on your cell phone that your bag has been located. Strings.
So take a situation where you're flying, so Colorado Springs, right? We're flying to Colorado Springs to New York.
Okay.
You're going to be there 5 days, but your bag suddenly ends up in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the QR code, the dynamic QR code, once you've started your itinerary and you're in New York, we know Dirk's going to be in New York for 5 days. So when the bag is found, the bag isn't sent back to Denver where it's no use to you anymore. The bag is sent to you where you are.
They're going to match you.
Correct.
In New York.
Yes, and FlightHound manages that process for you.
That is amazing, fellas. All right.
We like it.
Kind of getting the sense that this is definitely a step forward for all of us as travelers. I love this project. Okay, so user experience. How does it work?
Submitting the claim, we try to make it as simple and efficient as possible because of the exact scenario. You're in the middle of things. So you download the app from the Apple Store or from Google Play. You open the app up. The app defines each disruption for you. So it not only tells you that this is the type of disruption, but it also gives you a definition of what you should expect in terms of compensation. You enter in your flight information. You enter in your personal information, and then you submit the claim to FlightHound. It's a 5-minute process, if not less.
So you can go from gate 1 to gate 5, probably.
While you're in the stall.
While you're in the stall.
Yeah.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Okay. But certainly, whether it's a bio break or a bourbon and a burger.
There you go.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, you're starting to get things back to normal, back organized. And then you don't have lines of people yelling at front desk staff and gate staff who have no idea what's going on.
That is correct.
About your bag. I mean, God bless them. They just don't.
That's right.
Okay. And then, the public relations ripple effect of this, I can see, because if you have less of that anxiety and stress among travelers who have some control over their situation, okay, with FlightHound, then you have the ability to not have those outbursts where somebody's yelling at a gate or ticketing agent or somebody like that.
Dirk, that's a great point, because that's why we feel like our app serves both the consumer and serves the airline, because we can mitigate that anxiety, the issue, and the time that it takes for a passenger to feel like they've been properly taken care of when they experience a disruption.
Very good.
Yeah. Also with that too, with the airlines, if they have an unsatisfied customer, that customer could bump over to a different airlines, right? They lost a customer. I don't know what their client acquisition cost is for an airline.
That's a good point.
I imagine it's
a good point.
Upwards to $300. We would just soon have that traveler, that customer, stick with that airline.
As would they.
Yeah, sure.
No doubt about it. And you're in early stage here. So, I mean, are you experiencing or seeing pretty significant downloads at this point? I mean, how does it look early on?
So we launched February 1st. We were in both stores.
This February
1st, 2025.
Okay, so it is really early.
Dirk, you're getting this hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
And we do have downloads coming in from both platforms. We have claims coming in already now.
We sure do.
Seems to me the airlines would want to market this eventually as well, after they get over the sting of the fact that that racket underneath has been exposed a little bit. Yeah.
When they understand, as we've been saying, when we understand, we're not pitting the travelers against the airlines. We're here to help both. Right. Yeah, there is a lot of value we can add to the airlines. You go to the airport, and as David and I have joked several times, they have these little white sheets of paper with a little string, and you write your name, address, phone number,
right.
Put it on your bag. Again, that's 1970 back at us again. They would love to have the bag tag. Right, branded as the airline's bag tag, boom, right? And I think one of the things that's missing with the airlines to the travelers that the FlightHound can come in and provide is that thinking or the mindset of, hey, travelers, we the airlines, we're here for you. We do care, right? We hear you. We're here for you. I think that's a very important component that we can bring to the airline.
No question about it.
Absolutely. And you don't have to double back to us. We're there right in the moment, real time, helping you solve your problem.
Yep. So what's the self-funded so far?
Self-funded so far.
Very good.
We've got some big plans in how to take this, including, without giving away too much, including being more of an advisory, right? We're FlightHound now with the bag tag and that. It's a little bit proactive, but it's a lot reactive right now, reacting to an event.
Right.
We'd like to get ahead of that a little bit and offer some consulting and some advisory services. This could be expanded out to the travel sites, the hotels, more of like a travel consultancy, if you would.
So what's some good contact information for you guys if somebody wanted to say, hey, I'm looking at $1 million drop into that? Is there an opportunity to do that?
Head out to flighthoundapp.
Okay.
And you can contact us there.
I'm Strings. My strings at flighthoundapp is an email.
And
I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can ping me there directly.
I'm on LinkedIn as well. And my email is david@flighthound.app.
Very good. So strings at flighthound.app and David at flighthound.app if you're interested in learning more about the business model and maybe how you can get involved. But again, this is another example of great innovation here in Southeast Colorado. This FlightHound app has a myriad of possibilities, folks, and we can really start to reclaim, kind of like the Doge of airline baggage, right?
There you go.
Okay.
Exactly.
Nice job, Elon.
Yes.
Nice job, Elon. So we're going to try to capture some of that back. David Strings, thanks for being here and unpacking this. This was fun.
Dirk,
Thank you so much. This was great.
Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.
You've been tuned in to Business Digest Weekly with Dirk Hobbs.